I had been a radio presenter for 3 years, and yet I still felt I had nerves in my stomach whenever I was ready to about to begin a show. Um, I, I I couldn't understand how and why this was happening. So what I'd just like to share quickly with you is, why did I get nervous and what did I do about it? Well, there's some interesting psychology going on, but basically, your brain has like little antennae searching for detecting any threats or anything that might make you feel I'm not protected. And so it doesn't know whether it's a real threat, like a wild animal or a car coming towards you, and you need to get out of the way and run, or it might be a perceived threat, which is like subconscious. It's not a reality. So it's a very interesting thing that the brain does. It picks up these signals, and in public speaking, it's just the same. If you feel threatened by public speaking, then your antennae is going to be picking up all these signals and protecting you, want to protect you from it. So this is what's happening at the kind of subconscious level. And it's really interesting, because what happens when these antennae pick up the signals, they send it to a little button, they push a button called the amygdala, which is deep inside the kind of the back portion of your brain, which is the primitive brain. I say primitive in the good sense, it's the earliest part of your brain, but it's picking up signals that are going to help you in your environment. Now, way back, it may have been a wild animal wanting to attack you. Today, it might be simple as crossing the road at a green light, but there's a car coming towards you, so you've got to run out the way quickly. So it's, it serves as a defense mechanism for you. However, the interesting thing is, when you're on stage, or in my case, presenting on radio, I and you can't run, even if that's what you feel like doing, right? You can't. You've got to stay there. I've got to stay in front of my radio presenter's microphone, and you have to stay in front of the people you're presenting to. And we all go through this. And I'm just giving you a little bit of background as to what I discovered when I was faced with this problem. Now, how does this manifest consciously? So that's what's going on behind the scenes. Well, if you have experienced dry throat, clammy hands, shaking legs, heart beating like crazy, blood pressure going up, that's how it manifests in reality. That's the conscious part of it. That's how it shows itself in your body. So what happens is that your body wants to protect itself, and I'm going to kind of exaggerate, but it wants to do this. And you often see that on stage, and you often see that when people are presenting to others, and they're not conscious of what their body is doing, but they'll fold their arms, they'll put their hands in front of them, they'll put their hand in their pocket, or all sorts of things. They'll fidget, but that's natural. That's your body wanting to protect you. That's the signals coming from your brain. It perceives a threat. Now, how do we deal with that? Well, first of all, we recognize that that's what's happening, and it will happen anyway. And that's why I say, when dealing with nerves, you can't eliminate them. In fact, you don't want to eliminate them, but you want to be able to control them and use them in a way that's going to work for you. So that's what happens on the surface. You have all these bodily, feelings. And I think that the best way to deal with this is, in any situation where you feel threatened, is to almost make yourself big. Well, not almost, make yourself big. And ways that speakers do this is that they just let their hands go down beside them. So they're opening up. They're opening up this part. I'm opening myself up to my audience by allowing my hands to fall naturally to the side. Make yourself big, and if you want to check this out on TED.com. You can do no worse than look at Amy Cuddy's speech, Amy Cuddy's presentation, where she talks about the body language and those kind of confident postures. They really do help in overcoming a big part of that initial flood of adrenaline into your system. So by acting big, you're doing the opposite of what your defense mechanism is automatically saying. No, shut down, defend, close up. Do the opposite. By doing the opposite, you're overwriting it. You're kind of giving it an override, permission to overwrite your default mechanism and saying, this is how I'm going to be. This is how I'm going to respond. So in the radio situation, for example, I would make myself sit tall and open myself up rather than sit like this over the microphone. So it's really countering what your body wants you to do naturally. And let's face it, it's not a real threat, public speaking. However, it can seem that way. And that's what's happening behind the scenes. And that's how I learned that it was completely normal. And I could then work on becoming a better radio presenter.